Hey, Herrst, Alter, was ist das?
Do you speak English?
What is this? What is all this for?
Oh, this is just for Schnitz and Giggles.
Schnitz and Giggles!
Welcome to Schnitz and Giggles, the podcast that stumbles upon the humor of cross-cultural confusion and life in Vienna, Austria, through the experiences of an Auslander and his Wiener.
Brought to you by the Edelweiss Crackers.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for the purpose of entertainment only and is not a replacement for therapy.
Hey, welcome back to the Schnitz and Giggles podcast. We're sitting on episode 2 of season 2.
I'm sitting on a chair.
Hey.
Guten Hallo.
Oh man, we're going to cut that out, I hope.
Already messed up the first couple seconds of a new episode.
Yeah. Well, as promised, the weather is cooler outside.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah, it can. All you in Vienna, I'm sure you're wearing your hoodies and scarves and ramping up the heater to 37 degrees inside for some odd reason.
Oh yeah, and the furry boots.
Furry boots. Boots with the fur.
Boots with the fur. Have you seen Boots with the Fur?
Yeah. The whole club was looking at her.
Oh, that's a song reference. Yeah, well, you just proved to us that you're such a hip and up-to-date
Yeah,
guy.
I'm making song references from the early 2010s.
Yeah.
Yeah, really hip and with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's
at least
basically brand new in
I mean,
Austria, isn't it?
most of my song references are from the late 90s, so I guess I'm getting closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right on board with Austrian radio.
Yeah, well,
Good.
hit me one more time.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You did it again. Oh, boy.
Oh, this is getting toxic.
Well, this is exactly what we've planned.
Go on.
Well, welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again.
I've got a little bit of a quiz for you
Oh,
to
nice.
test your Austrian culture knowledge to see if you truly are the expert on this show.
Season 2, and Mr. Giggles still doesn't believe that Dr. Schnitzel is an expert on Austrian stuff.
Well, I've heard you've got some gaps in your pop culture references.
Yeah.
So,
I heard that too.
So now we're going to see if you have gaps in your cultural and historical references.
Let's prove them right.
Yeah, it must be proof. Consider the source. And so I've got an article here from a news source called thelocal.at. Shout out to you guys.
Okay.
Not a sponsor, but we're using your stuff, so figure we should give you
Some
a little bit of credit. Yeah, a little bit of credit. But they have an article that's titled 6 Unique Traditions That Austrians Love to Love. So I wanted to see
That's a weird title.
if these were traditions that you were familiar with, perhaps that you have some fun anecdotes about.
Oh,
So I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to do a short little description, and then you're going to tell me what this tradition is called.
all right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
We've got 6, hence the title.
Oh, that's why.
6 traditions, yeah. We might not go to all 6.
Well,
'cause
yeah.
I think 2 of them
If I
are
fail after the
easy.
second one, maybe we should stop.
Yeah, we might cut this short.
Yeah, cut it short.
Okay. So it seems like it's wedding season these days. A lot of people are getting married.
Is that Chris say that, or are you saying that?
No, it's just a kind of precursor to it.
Yeah. Okay. People getting married.
Lots of guys missing baseball games because they're at weddings. It's made the playoffs a little bit difficult.
Really? Well, usually it's actually spring season. That's more wedding season, but
I don't know.
maybe it's cheaper. In the
Yeah, it's probably cheaper.
Yeah.
All these guys are
end of the summer.
being considerate of their budgets. But apparently there's a tradition of stealing the bride,
Right.
where they sneakily take the bride away from the reception
Mm-hmm.
and take her away to a bar, apparently.
Yeah.
And then the groom has to go in search of her and then buy rounds or buy her back.
Right.
Seems like a problematic tradition
It is pretty
these
much,
days. Yeah. Good thing I'm starting with this one. What's that called?
I'm not sure if it's just Brautstehlen or if it's something else.
It's something else.
Something else.
Yeah, you got the first part right.
Yeah. Well, Braut is bride. Therefore, that's what it's
You
called.
got it right. Yeah. What I have here is Brautraub,
Okay. Brautraub. Raub is also kind of stealing and
to rob.
to rob.
That's what the word sounds like.
That's
to
what
me.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you participate in this tradition when you got married?
No, and I've never actually been to a wedding myself as a guest where that really happened, except for maybe once when I was a kid. I felt like that kind of happened, but it was just weird. The bridegroom was just going around and looking for the bride, but I think he found her in the end. And I think it's more a countryside tradition more than a city tradition. But we might even go into that in the later episode and see like more like looking at traditions that are part of the country, like deep down in the valley and the Alps.
A little teaser.
Yeah, maybe we should go there someday.
All right, yeah, I'd have to ask my various friends who have been involved in a wedding recently if the bride was stolen.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's all.
This isn't a wedding episode, so
No.
we won't go into those stories. All right. Well, good. 1 for 1. So apparently there's a common New Year's tradition where you buy pigs with pieces of tin sold alongside them and little metal spoons.
Yes.
And you melt these tins down and then drop them in some water.
Well, probably what you mean is Bleigießen.
I do mean that, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of this idea of you melt it and whatever comes out is kind of a good fortune indicator.
Have you ever
oracle.
participated in this?
I did it once, yes, just for fun. Just to see, and actually in the end I was like disappointed because the melted tin just looked ugly, like, you know, drops of liquid metal just having cooled down again.
Yeah.
And it had no actual forms. I didn't know what to do with it. It's like I thought it would be shaped like a car or something. Like something I can think of, like identify, but no.
So you didn't put too much stock in the
No.
in the reading.
I just did it also, I think, when I was still a kid too, because I'd heard of it and I was like, okay, like let's try it just for the schnitz and giggles.
Did you do this in secret, or did
No,
you feel
no,
ashamed about yourself doing this?
No, I did actually ask my parents to do that with me, and
they were okay with it, huh?
they're okay with just for me to see what it's like.
Just exploring your cultural
Just
background.
exploring my culture, yeah. So I can one day sit here on a chair
Good. That's
and
just
on an
good
episode.
parenting, preparing you for podcasting.
Preparing for yeah, my parents prepared me for podcasting.
All right, 2 for 2. How about a common Easter tradition where you take a hard-boiled egg and smash it against another one?
Eierpecken.
Do you do this?
Yes, a lot.
I was having some troubles really understanding. Like, do you actually ever hit the egg and it doesn't crack?
Well, you have two people competing against each other.
Yeah.
So each one, you grab an egg, an Easter egg, and you just hit, the tip of the eggs. You point them at each other, and then one of them usually cracks.
Don't both of them crack?
Sometimes yes, but not always.
Really?
So usually there's one egg that's a little stronger than the other, and then you won that round.
I feel like I might have to incorporate this into our next Easter celebration.
Yes, it's
again,
it's
just
fun.
for schnitz and giggles.
Yeah, kids love it. Adults love it. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I lost, and you actually turn around and you do the other tip.
Oh, wow.
And so you kind of have a chance maybe to get a draw.
Yeah,
so there's all kinds of variants. But there's even, when you go to an Easter market, maybe they have it in Vienna, but certainly in those small towns where it's a big celebration, they have people, you can actually sign up to compete like on the market square, and then you sit against maybe a stranger or your neighbor or whoever, and then you're just like, oh, okay, let's do it. And then they have a big basket of eggs, and you just grab one, and so it's all fun, family-friendly fun.
It sounds like a blast.
And you get to eat the eggs in the end. I mean,
sure. Yeah, it's a nice, fun pre-breakfast activity.
Yeah.
I guess I have a less than adequate understanding of eggshells and how they both don't break in that situation.
They are not as fragile as you might think.
Certainly, they're very strong.
They are.
Protecting life and all that.
That's what the purpose is, yeah.
But when two are smashed together, you feel like, I just feel like they would both break. But obviously I'm wrong.
You've never tried that.
I'm man enough to admit it. This isn't a tradition.
Here's a pro tip for the beginners. Use hard-boiled eggs only.
Oh, hard-boiled eggs is probably a key detail for those of you at home. Although,
it would be fun.
That'd be a fun...
We could start our own tradition. The schnitz and
yeah,
giggles.
like maybe 2/3 of the eggs are hard-boiled. The other third are not.
Ooh.
And so, you go up there and
Yeah.
I guess you could probably tell or not. I guess if they're cold.
There's a way actually to tell like cooked eggs from non-cooked eggs apart. Did you know
just
that?
by holding them? Because there's something about water, right?
Yeah. Do you know the trick? The trick is you need to spin them. Put them on the table and spin them. So if they spin really fast, it's solid inside. If they don't spin very fast, they're still...
Obviously, there would be no spinning allowed before each round.
Yeah, so you couldn't cheat.
Yeah, that would kind of
defeat the purpose.
go against the spirit of the game.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a fun little trick, a little prank to add in some non-hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
Surely there's some families where that has been a thing. Where
it has happened before.
Mom was feeling wanted a little switch up.
Yeah.
Feeling like she needed to add some more laughs to the Easter breakfast. Or dad. He's sneaking in a couple of unhard-boiled eggs. Or a naughty younger sibling.
There's so many options.
Yeah, so it could be really anybody.
Who can actually...
Really, anybody in the family could decide to do this.
The sister, it could be the brother. It
could be crazy uncle.
Could be a cousin that stays overnight.
Could have been a cousin that stayed overnight. That's right. That would have been a likely option. Well, I'm curious if that's ever happened. Listeners, if you have participated in this lovely Austrian tradition and somebody in your family decided to be a prankster and ruin Easter.
Or made Easter more fun.
I bet mom would be really upset.
Right.
Raw egg all over the breakfast
Whoever
table.
needs to clean up the mess is going to be upset.
Sure. Okay.
Good.
That's good. All right.
I think we discovered this now.
The next ones are, so this one that happens up in the Alps
Okay.
involves cows.
Okay, that's very general still.
It involves cows with large bells and
Okay.
decorations. Do you know what that's called?
Is it the Almabtrieb?
It is.
Good.
Yeah.
Even as a city kid, I kind of know
You know of it.
of it.
Yeah, man, that'd be kind of fun to watch all the cows coming out of the
Yeah.
Alps down in the pasture.
That's at the end of like the summer when it gets colder. So they've been eating the good grass and plants up there, feeding for the winter. And then they come down, and that's kind of a big celebration when the cows kind of finally come back to the valley.
Yeah.
And they're all decorated. When I saw that on TV once,
Yeah.
again when I was a kid. So many kid stories today. The cows have all flowers around, like the horns are decorated, and they have flowers around the necks and so on. And I first thought when I first saw it that some cows are getting married.
Oh.
Because it looked like it looked like a bride.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Wow.
There's a
That's kind of rude. Kind of not a nice thing to say.
I didn't
about
say
brides.
brides look like cows. I said the cow looked like a bride.
Okay. Tomato, potato. Whatever.
Oh my.
But you've never witnessed this in person?
No.
I feel like this could be a fun thing to do sometime for the Schnitz and Giggles
Absolutely.
audience.
But
Let's
it only
go out
happens
there.
like Christmas. It only happens once a year. So you got to be
one
there.
day in October. We got to.
And just this year, I did hear about that, the fact that the weather, like the temperatures dropped so fast.
That's right.
That they actually wanted to stay longer, but now they say like we have to like move it up by a week or so.
Yeah,
so,
I saw the snow levels.
because
get
that also
pretty
happens
low.
with sheep and cows and other like any kind of
Got to get them out of that.
animals.
cold
Got to get out
weather.
of there, and they can only take so much because there's not enough shelter, not enough heated shelter.
Okay, another one that just recently happened.
Okay.
These next ones are pretty easy. I think most people know about these, but
Maybe I
they're-
don't.
I would imagine you do. I would imagine you participated in this tradition quite
All right.
recently.
Let's find out what you think of me.
Well, it has to do with the beginning of school
Okay.
and giving a certain type of gift to your student as they start out school.
The Schultüte.
Yeah.
I also got one, but imagine I got it when I was a kid.
Really? Wow. Huh.
Think about this.
Turns out all these traditions are for
Just for children.
for children. I mean, kind of, I guess. Yeah, I mean, we as teachers here at the school received Schultüte at the beginning
No.
of our time here. That was like our first.
That's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek situation.
Yeah, of course,
For teachers.
of course, but it's an
But
introduction.
it's, yeah, nice.
Like an early introduction to a tradition.
Yeah, in Austria, the tradition is every first grader gets a Schultüte, which is like a big cone just made out of just cardboard. And that's it. And the parents fill it with some gifts for the beginning of the school year. So
It's like a Christmas stocking for school.
almost, like Christmas stocking for school is a good comparison. And you either have sometimes you have some candy in there, but also maybe some pens or pencils for the
Sure,
school
school
year,
supplies.
some school supplies, or a toy.
The least exciting part of the
Like,
Schultüte. Oh, fine.
I got an eraser, pencil
Only one
sharpener.
bag of Haribo. Okay, good. All right. And then finally, a tradition that's quite frightening.
Krampus.
And one that is right around my birthday, traditionally. Makes me always really nervous to go out during my birthday
because
season.
you might get beat
Because
up
I don't want to get like scared and beat up by these big
by
scary
some demons.
demons.
Yeah. What does your description say about the Krampus tradition?
What does it say about it?
I mean, does it have any short description?
It says locals dressed up as the wicked beast Krampus, wild pagan spirits of Germanic folklore, exhibit their costumes in a procession. The costumes are usually very frightening, or at least very ugly. Originally, Krampus was the horrible goat-like creature that followed St. Nicholas and punished bad children. Yeah. In recent years, however, the two processions and traditions have largely combined into one main event. The two being, saying Krampus or Perchten.
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 Is another old word for that.
Yeah.
Perchtenlauf.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos of like smaller towns where they like really go all in on it, and these dudes are chasing after people or whatever.
Right. And again, it seems I have to say it over and over. As a kid, I first encountered that. Plus, it's something that really is also much more celebrated, if you can call it celebrated, in the countryside than in the big city of Vienna.
Yeah, I think I was scared away from it by people telling me that like, oh yeah, there's people walking around dressed up and they chase you. I don't think I've ever seen it in Vienna.
Yeah,
But again, I never go out on those days, so
on your birthday.
I may have been able to avoid it pretty successfully.
In the small towns, I mean, it's kind of the village event. It's like there's a certain evening, certain night, and then the whole town comes together, and then they have like a chase. You know, like in Spain, they have this bull chase where the bull chase actually the people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of similar, but usually the young men dress up as Krampus, and they sometimes chase maybe some women they like, or they would at least or scared kids. That's also part of it.
Just some good old fashioned fun of chasing people and scaring the daylights out of them.
There's really, and there's this kind of, it's almost turns into a wrestling competition where there's I don't know if there's a referee or not. You don't really need a referee, but there's this idea of people sitting at a table. And they set up a table in the town square, and then they unleash the Krampus. Like there's 20 guys running at like a group of people sitting at the table.
Just enjoying a meal.
Yeah, they don't even get to have a meal, but
No.
It looks like a restaurant setup, though, or like a living room setup. And then they just need to fend off those Krampuses, and they need to hold off. And the Krampuses try to drag you away from your seat and just drag you into the snow.
Sounds like a blast.
That's Austria at its finest.
Certainly something that may be fun to witness.
Yeah.
Maybe not participate in.
No,
Sounds dangerous.
Depends if you're the Krampus or not. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's sort of an initiation rite or something like that for the young man. Because if you are, as a regular, can drag down a Krampus who try to drag you down,
Then you yourself can become a Krampus.
well, I don't know if you can become a Krampus, but you're the hero of the day.
All right.
And you get lots of attention because you're strong enough to fight
Big deal.
the monster.
All right.
We should do another episode on that as well, perhaps.
Sure.
Plus, I think there have been many podcasts, even like international podcasts, who've been looking into the Krampus idea. Because
It's one of those traditions that I think I was aware of prior to coming to Austria.
Yeah.
Something that pops up every once in a while is crazy.
And as a matter of fact, it is
holiday
older.
traditions.
It's older than it's like a pagan tradition that kind of blended into the Saint Nicholas tradition as well. It goes back, way back.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you. Those are the 6.
Good. Wow.
All right. Well,
That's
see you later.
Is that it? Or well, there's one tradition that you missed.
Oh.
I think. Yeah.
okay.
Whenever you are invited to an Austrian home, you cannot really call it a tradition, though. Especially not a tradition like what did it say that they love to love?
They love to love.
Austrians love to love. You might think people like it and love it because it's very deep down in so many Austrian hearts and behavior and mannerisms. So when you are at someone's house, you're a guest and you're having dinner, for example. Once you have your meal, you're finishing up your meal. There's a tradition in Austria concerning the plates.
Okay.
And it doesn't really have a name, really. It doesn't have a name. Although there is a name I'm going to tell you in a moment. There's a name for it. But the very fact... I'm confusing myself here. The very fact that you are sitting at the table, finishing up your meal, your host might be expecting something from you.
Oh, okay.
Do you already know what I'm getting at, or still...
I mean, it could go a lot of different ways, but I mean, you're setting up in a very, very mysterious fashion here.
Yes. So imagine you have, I don't know, there's still 3 potatoes on your plate or something after and you're like, I think I've had enough. How do you think an Austrian would interpret that?
Oh, are you saying like if I leave some food?
If you leave some food on the plate.
As a guest. I mean, this is a hard scenario to place myself in. I don't feel like
you never get invited. That's the
okay, rude. No. More so that I would.
Oh, you always.
I'll probably finish what's on there. Unless it was something I didn't like very much.
Okay.
Then maybe I'd leave it on there.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, is everything okay? Do you not like it? Oh yeah, it's great. Just kind of full.
So in Austria, the tradition that we all love to love is that it is really expected for you to clear your plate, so eat up. Which of course is different if you're a guest. If you're especially a non-Austrian guest, your host, I hope, will have some tolerance towards maybe different customs. But people are taught to clean plates.
Yeah, finish off everything that you've been served.
However, the exact opposite also exists. So that makes it really, really...
In Austria,
that makes
So
it really
confusing.
hard. That's why I was wondering what your experience was concerning that.
Yeah, again, like I don't often leave a plate uncleaned if I'm over for a meal. Although I have had it. I have had situations in other countries where if you do clean your plate, like it immediately gets filled back up.
Yeah.
Because cleaning your plate is a sign that you still want more. So you just keep getting food.
Keep getting food, yeah.
So I would imagine as an Austrian going to one of these countries, you're in this endless cycle of overeating because you're like, I must clean off my plate, and then the other people, your host is like, oh no, he's still hungry, because that's a sign that, you know, when you finish that you're still hungry, and if you're not hungry anymore, then you leave just a little bit to indicate that you're no longer wanting anymore.
As a matter of fact, as an Austrian, I have literally been in that dilemma. I was like, I'm finishing up. I was like, oh no, I was like, and then, yeah, you have some more, and then I'm eating more. It's like, no, I have some more. It's like, oh.
You just have an endless.
I was done
soup bowl.
I was done 3 plates ago.
Yeah, but you feel so compelled that you have to finish it.
Yeah,
man, what a cycle of cross-cultural goodness.
Yeah, and that is really an issue, because in other cultures, like you just said, it is an indicator that if you leave the food on your plate, you said you have enough, and then they stop serving you.
Yeah.
Whereas in Austria, if you leave something on the plate, they wait for you to finish until they actually clear the whole table.
So they'll just leave your plate in front of you.
Eventually, well,
the rest of
they
the
might be waiting for a couple minutes, and then maybe they will ask if everything's all right.
Yeah.
Because in a way, they will be waiting for you to finish at first. That would be the first expectations, and unless you say something, that's what they would expect.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've really ever come across that being an issue. Again, I'm going to finish my plate. It's kind of funny to consider why, like, so many countries that are in fairly close proximity to each other have such different responses to the food left on the plate. You know, because like what are the reasons that Austrians have this cleaning your plate mentality? Do you think, as opposed to, hey, if your plate's cleaned off, I'm giving you more food?
Well, as far as I know, what I found out is that it used to be the case that Austrian etiquette would say, leave something on the plate when you're done.
Okay.
That was the original idea. That's why I said why it's so confusing, is because both exist, but you got to figure out which one is appropriate right now.
Which family dynamic you're sitting in.
And there's a term in German that is hard to translate into English, and it's called Anstandsrest.
Okay.
And Anstand actually is a word for decency or like civility. Okay. There is one term in English that's called manners bit. I don't know if you ever heard of that, because I hadn't until this day.
I haven't. Manners bit?
Have you heard of manners, my friend?
I've never heard of manners. Other than the delicious wafer treats.
Yeah. Man mag man eben. That's another thing. Yeah. Directly from Vienna. But this word Anstand, Rest, I mean, Rest is like the rest of like pieces, like leftovers. Yeah. So it's like leftovers of decency. If that
the polite leftovers.
The polite leftovers. So you leave it in order to be a polite guest. And that was the expectation for the longest time in Austria. I'm talking about going into the 19th century.
Okay.
But then some things changed, and there are several reasons that maybe we don't even can go into, that they say, well, it's actually more polite to clear a plate. I think one main reason, especially talking about the 20th century, would be the Great Wars, the World Wars, where there was hardly any food left.
Okay, yeah.
So not finishing up what you got served was a complete waste of food.
They don't want to just throw food away if people are hungry.
Right. And so that war generation that I kind of also still knew growing up.
Sure.
When I was a kid.
When you were a kid.
Yes. They would insist on, like, you wouldn't leave. Sometimes their plates looked like they came right straight out of the dishwasher.
Wow.
Because they would clean it up. So, like, they would even take some pieces of bread and wipe up the plate with the bread.
It's always a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun thing to do at any time. But they felt compelled to do that.
Yeah. It'd be rude if they didn't.
Right. And even thinking of soup, something that might be rude in Austrian culture, if you have soup and you kind of tilt your plate in order to get the last couple drops with your spoon, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
That's
a little scrape.
Is something that you probably shouldn't do, even though if it's less than a spoonful in your plate, I think that's fine, even if you kind of showed you cleared your plate. So
can you hold the bowl up to your mouth and drink it? That's probably not in polite society.
There's I don't know if it's just, I think there's a couple of those castles in Austria. You can book a night and dine like a night with a K. So it's like you have to eat with your hands only.
Okay.
So they serve you all kinds of food like back in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And then you just rip apart like all the meat and food and bread they bring you.
There's a place in a few locations in America called Medieval Times where that's their big thing, is that they don't give you silverware. But they do give you wet wipes at the end.
I never did that. We should try that. I never did that myself. So
to eat with your hands? Or to go to...
No, I never...
To go to Medieval Times.
Like a time travel?
I mean... I don't know if there's a medieval times over here in Europe.
The way we do it here, I think you can just book it for you, like a group of people, like a restaurant booking. Probably the main difference is that in Austria, you can go to real castles, like there are real medieval castles.
Okay.
You have a hard time finding those in the States.
That's very true.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Truth be told.
No argument for me.
Good. Let's move on.
Okay.
Where was I? Oh, like you asked me if that's okay with the soup. Yeah. The war generation, they would clean up everything at the end of every meal. And they would also teach their children that. So the generations that came out of the war times are pretty strict on that. And these days, it's become less and less of an issue. But they usually said, people are starving elsewhere. And then
that's one that I feel was around when I was a kid. Growing up.
You were a kid too.
I was a kid too. No longer, contrary to
what some people say about
what some people might say. But it was during that time where there always seemed to be like really bad famines, and hunger around the world was an issue. It's still an issue in many places, but it seemed like it was always a much more in-your-face, prominent issue. And they'd be like, parents would say like, "There's starving kids in Africa.
Right? Yeah, I heard the same thing.
You should eat all your food."
Yeah.
Which always will like, you're not shipping this food to them. So what I leave on my plate don't blame me for those problems.
Yeah,
it's not my fault.
I mean, we all know, of course, the intention was to evoke some gratitude from the kids. But I even asked the same question. What does it help if I eat more than I need to and I grow fat and the kids in Africa are going to starve are they going to starve more because of that? Or
they're probably going to starve the same amount.
Yeah. I mean, the harsh truth is,
sadly,
me finishing the plate wouldn't change that.
Right. But it is interesting how these things become, it sounds like that was kind of the same argument, I would imagine, for the Austrian side of like, we're in the middle of war. Yeah. We got to eat everything we have because we don't have that much.
Did you know there's a poster, a US poster?
Really?
I mean, there is one.
Really?
Really, yeah.
What are these?
That is called The Gospel of the Clean Plate.
The Gospel of the Clean Plate.
And it says, don't waste any food. And it literally says on it, leave a clean dinner plate. Take only such food as you will eat. And then the line that hit me was, thousands are starving in Europe.
So before the line of there's starving kids in Africa, it was there's starving kids in Europe?
Yes, it was issued by the New York State Department of Health by Herman M. Biggs, commissioner.
Okay.
But it's a poster from 1917.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that was exactly the times of World War I. And so the Americans trying to empathize, I guess, with the Europeans.
We'll have to make sure to share a copy of this poster on our social feeds.
We will put that on our social feeds.
Schnitz and Giggles Pod at Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Follow. Yeah. The one thing that is true in that context, at least when talking about war times, is there's not enough food, and all the food that you can save can be sent to the soldiers.
Sure.
More or less, like you can save the rations for the people fighting, and because the soldiers need it in that unusual state of things that they're in. So in this case, not overeating.
Yeah, there was a system in place where people were eating less because they were under ration orders.
Precisely.
So food was being sent to different places. Yeah. And you need to make sure, but it probably wasn't a problem to finish your plate if you're under rations. You don't have as much food to eat. And
the point is, once the food is on your plate, it will not get to a soldier. You're not going to wrap it up and send it to someone.
The mindfulness of the situation is important, I suppose.
Fortunately, neither you or I have ever been in that situation where we are living in a war zone or something like that.
Yeah, I think the closest we have as an experience was toilet paper during the days of Corona.
Yeah, the scarcity of the toilet paper.
Hey.
Stop it.
I'm stopping. I'm okay. Seeing myself going down a dark road with.
Some people have compared the COVID days to war days, but I think that's just.
No, it's certainly not at all.
That's just a slap in the face to anyone.
An apt comparison. I think that's the closest we've ever gotten in our privileged lives.
But the idea, everyone has to do their part for the community, for the country, makes sense.
Yeah, and I can see how those things become so ingrained in your way of living. One of the things that has affected, recent generations in America was, people that were raised during the Great Depression. I'm sure there's some of that because that was pre-World War II over here, but where, using things and how you held on to things, it's kind of a joke that, people of my grandparents' generation, for example, would be really stingy on what they threw away and what they held on to and how they reuse things, which are all good things. But, you hear these stories of people saving all their ice cream tubs or something.
Right, yeah.
Because they're going to use them for some sort of container. But then they just have stacks of ice cream tubs because they don't want to throw anything away.
Or even like the little wooden thing from the popsicle, like the
popsicle sticks. That's
popsicle
right.
sticks.
Yeah, keeping everything.
I literally have a box of nails at home from my grandfather.
Yeah.
Who kind of reused, like he pulled the nails out of the wood.
Yeah.
And some of them are slightly bent even.
Sure.
But he would reuse them at any chance he could. And I still have them. There's lots of nails that I couldn't even use up in a lifetime now.
Right. Yeah. Because how much stuff are you building?
I'm not building up. Yeah. All the IKEA stuff doesn't need any nails. So it's very rare.
It's
very rare that I need all the nails. And I'm not a carpenter.
You aren't. It's interesting how those times of crisis can like have such long lasting effects on society and how it can actually in some ways change cultural realities, like this whole plate situation in Austria.
Exactly.
Like it completely flipped how they approached a meal.
Yeah. But coming back to one more confusion that you might encounter in Austria is, like I told you just the word Anstands, what's it called? I forgot my own word.
You're making it up?
Yeah. No, I told you about the word Anstandsrest.
Yeah.
And there's also the word Anstandsschluck.
Okay.
Schluck is a sip.
Oh.
So in some ways, it's expected that you, when you have a drink, that you leave, especially when it's alcoholic drinks, that you might not finish it up.
Okay.
Also, some people say because it doesn't even taste that good, the last sip of a drink.
Yeah, the last 10% is all backwash.
It's all the back. Yeah, so the backwash is basically what you would call Anstandsschluck. However, I'm going to flip it once again. So we are doing 180 degrees flip like 3 times here in this episode. It seems like
we're getting dizzy.
We're getting dizzy and busy. So
not
getting jiggy.
Okay,
I'm just getting jiggy with it.
Not getting dizzy.
Getting so.
Oh, family show.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Where was I? Will Smith? No. So if you're ever in the situation where you are being offered a drink or let's say maybe some cookies or some finger food, something like that, some snacks. And you refuse to take any of those.
Yeah.
Your host might say to you, well, take an Anstandsstück or take an Anstandsschluck. Or same scenario, some guy might say, I'm not supposed to drink anything, but I'm going to take an Anstandsschluck. Okay. So that idea would be, it's kind of the opposite idea. You only take one sip of
like
a glass.
Courtesy drink.
It's like courtesy drink, yeah. And you just say, I'm going to take one cookie in order to please your host.
Yeah.
It's not the last cookie on the plate or the last sip in the glass. It's really the opposite. So Anstandsstück or Anstandsschluck can go both ways. It's either the very first or the very last piece or sip of something.
I think I just recently participated in this cultural norm.
Okay.
We were walking out of our apartment, out of the Hof, and our downstairs neighbors were downstairs hosting some people, and they're like, "Here, take a cookie."
Mm-hmm. See?
And I'm like, we were heading out, somewhere. Yeah, no, it's okay. We were trying to be polite by not necessarily taking something.
Yeah.
They're like, no, just take one.
Yeah.
Take one while you walk, which I guess it was kind of.
Yeah, I think you did the right thing, culturally speaking. So if they really offer you and they insist 2 times, 3 times, and just say, "Oh, I have one."
Yeah.
I mean, say, I have two.
The amount of cookies that I've taken out of like, okay, I'll take one cookie. It's a lot of cookies.
It's a lot of cookies, yeah. At some point, it's time to put that cookie down.
Yeah, put that cookie down
now. But
I think the interesting, yet another 180, another difference when it comes to beverages is that same idea of like once you finish, like if you finish that beverage, they're going to refill it right away, which can be a very dangerous thing if you don't understand the cultural implications of you finishing a beverage. And you get into this endless cycle again of maybe having too much of a certain type of beverage because you finish it just to kind of be done with it, and then it's refilled, and so you feel obligated to finish that one, and then it goes on and on. I've heard of this being an issue in some places.
Yeah, it is an issue sometimes. Maybe you will have a story or not. Some other day.
Yeah.
Some other day.
Yeah, probably.
We'll save that for
probably not
exclusive content.
Yeah, for all our Patreons.
For the Patreons and so on.
Buy us a coffee.
There's one more thing I think I need to mention before we wrap up this episode. That is really a good tip if you visit Austria, if you live here. And that kind of has a certain importance to Austrians. I'm talking now about the beginning of a meal, not the end, for where there's some leftovers. I'm talking about the beginning again.
Okay.
Usually when you sit down together at the table, and we talked about this in the first season, we talked about the word Mahlzeit.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you are a guest at someone's home, you would usually wait for the host to say either Mahlzeit or guten Appetit.
Yeah.
And then you start eating. You don't eat before that. And maybe that kind of goes with a lot of American experiences as well. However, the one thing I've noticed a lot is the drinking part. When you are ordering drinks at a restaurant or if you're having drinks at someone's place, the one thing that really does not go well with Austrians, if you order, we talk about alcoholic beverages, if you order beer or wine, and you're like, oh, here's my beer, and you just immediately chuck it down.
Yeah, don't be doing that.
So I've seen a lot of people doing that, and even with me, although I kind of know a lot of cultures, I still feel uneasy as an Austrian in those situations. So because usually you would Prost to each other, or if it's a little more fancy, you say zum Wohl. Yeah, so that would be the issue.
But we're never
fancy.
Never, literally never fancy.
But the point is, if you're having like a wine dinner, like exclusive, exquisite restaurant, you rather use the term zum Wohl and don't get Prost and cling cling and everything. So, but if it's like just a beer restaurant, like that's more casual, then you can maybe use both.
I feel like I felt some of that discomfort at times because when maybe we have guests visiting us from outside that aren't used to kind of what it's like going out.
Yeah, you've been hosting a lot of guests from outside and you're kind of their tour guide.
Yeah, rough.
You could do a whole season about that.
I probably could. Yeah. And, some of those guests might be listening to this podcast. So
choose your words wisely.
Yeah, I will. But that concept of, when you order the first round of beverages and you're just kind of waiting for everybody to get theirs, if they don't all come at the same time or whatever, of just people being very quick to take a sip. And like, that makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm like, what are you doing?
You're already adapting.
Hold up. Like, come on. Just wait 2 seconds. But then occasionally, I think we've both been guilty of this, where like we all of a sudden, we get our beverage and we're thirsty and we just take a drink. We're like, oh no.
Yeah, if it's really to quench your thirst, it might be acceptable. But if it's more like a social gathering,
of course,
which often is accompanied in Austria by wine or beer, then the social thing takes the priority.
Yeah. So wait till you get a chance to Prost and stare into each other's eyes and then take your drink. If you're that thirsty, have a bottle of water.
To stare into the eyes is actually it's not a joke, as a matter of fact.
No, it's very much something you have to do.
You don't have to go very deep for staring with the staring, but
you have to really make that deep eye contact.
Go ahead to it.
This is great for podcasting. Staring at each other's eyes right now. We should
say like 2 truths and a lie, like with our podcast. So like one thing is a complete nonsense thing, and
yeah.
You keep staring at me. What's going on?
Yeah, all I have is a water bottle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good bye-bye.
Prost and guten bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this Schnitz and Giggles episode.
Remember to follow and subscribe if you want more content like this from the Edelweisscrackers.
Don't be shy about commenting or leaving feedback. Until next time.
So long.
Farewell.
Good Wiedersehen.
Bye-bye.